I'm Scott Mitchell, welcoming in Paul Monies, senior reporter for Oklahoma Watch. Paul, it's good to see you. Read your stories this week. You can see these at oklahomawatch.org about the term that everybody's going to be learning about called securitization, the impact of the deep freeze on bills. Paul, just give us a little background about what securitization is. And people have been reading about these increases with their gas and electric bills. You've done a story on this, raising a lot of questions, getting a lot of answers as well. But just give us a little background.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you remember about a year ago, we had the February storm 2021, super cold here in Oklahoma, hit much of the Midwest and Texas as well. During that time, we had some problems with supplying natural gas, both to our natural gas utilities and our electric utilities who need that for natural gas plants. So prices then went haywire, essentially, especially in the Oklahoma market for the trading hub in Oklahoma. We saw gas prices reach 600 times their prices before the storm hit. And so now we're going to deal with the after effects of that. And there's been a couple of things that have gone on in the last year. Largely, the legislature allowed utilities to have another option to deal with these costs and smooth out the costs over 25, 28, 30 years, depending on the term of the bonds, so that customers are paying a little bit of a month plus interest. But there's some issues with that in terms of fairness and equity for customers. And so, we looked a lot of that in our reporting. Our first story was done in collaboration with Floodlight News, which is an environmental news nonprofit that was also co-published in the Guardian website as well. And then we kind of looked at the case that actually got solved this week at the Corporation Commission and voted on with the Oklahoma natural gas utility case for securitization.
All right, so those of us that have been looking, and you've covered energy for a lot of years, and you're watching all these markets and what happened, the numbers, 600 times the normal price, $4.5 billion spent on that, and the legislature acted quickly. They got it over the Corporation Commission, and they've got it done. But there's a lot of folks that are looking at this going, well, first off, there's the repercussions in terms of, and Texas is on its own deal, finger pointing. But the question is anything being done about this when you look at somebody made a bunch of money, Paul?
Right. And part of the problem with these cases is that it's a secret who the companies were, the suppliers that sold the gas at those prices. I mean, that's a big problem. Normally, utilities are allowed to kind of keep those secret. That there are people at the Corporation Commission and the Attorney General's office who know the identities of the sellers. They keep them confidential according to the contracts they have. But this was not a normal time. And so people are wondering, when the prices get that high, has something failed along the way where somebody's been in there maybe speculating in the market? I mean, this storm was about 10, 11 days over February, started on kind of a holiday weekend, President's weekend. So there's some market possibilities of someone profiting a lot. It's not a normal time where you would keep some of the sellers secret, and so there's been an effort by the consumer groups to peel back the layers of that, and also later on, I think maybe responding to some of the outcry, the Corporation Commission has filed a case to ask commissioners to kind of open up those sellers during that time.
Got about 45 seconds left. In terms of your coverage of the story, and you continue to cover this at Oklahoma Watch, my question is, it's a technical term, anything really squirrely when you're writing that you're like, this has to be investigated, this is going to be a big issue?
Well, yeah, I mean, who investigates that? Essentially, the Attorney General's office came out pretty quickly under Mike Hunter, said we're looking at price gouging. His successor, John O'Connor, hasn't really given any updates since then. It's almost a year now. The federal authorities, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, investigates price manipulations in the natural gas market nationally. They've had some preliminary stuff, but hasn't had anything final. Now, I haven't had anybody say for sure this happened, but they say possibly that there could have been something going on with problems with people declaring their force of God contract. It's called force majeure during the time of the high prices and saying they can't supply gas to utilities. And then maybe getting that magically appeared again on the supply issue and turning around and selling on the spot market. Now, nobody can prove that. That's just speculation. But that could be some of the reasons why the prices went that sky high, during that time period. And Oklahoma was, the highest in the nation. Our trading hub was the highest. We had other trading hubs around the country that got pretty high and got to record levels, but nothing like you saw in Oklahoma.
Okay, we'll stay tuned. Paul Monies with Oklahoma Watch, oklahomawatch.org. Paul, thanks for your work on this.
Thanks, Scott. Pleasure to be here.
See this again at news9.com/your vote counts, and follow me on Twitter @Mitchell Talks.